you ask, you put out, when you start talking about it, you start saying, we have a system of white supremacy in place. We need to replace that system with a system of justice. That's real simple to say, but we never say it like that collectively. You always ask the people who have the most power. So that would start, first of all, with the first white person that you encounter. You first ask them, what are they doing today? I mean, on a job, if you're going to talk about it at all. That's if you elect to talk about it. You shouldn't talk about it unless you decide that that's what you're going to talk about, and the person that you're going to talk about it with is willing to listen. Under the United Independent Compensatory System, what I would tell people, if the person wants to do that, that person should do that if that person wants to do that, if that person thinks that what he or she will do down in Florida would have a constructive result. See, that's what I mean by United Independent. See, Neely Fuller does not have the authority or the competence. I'm not a guru. I'm not the supreme this, that, and the other, the white supremacists or the supremacists. I'm not supreme over anybody. So all I would do is just suggest that anybody who can do anything that they think will have a constructive result in this matter or any other matter, day by day, not just for today, just for this incident, but every day you're supposed to be doing something that will have the most constructive result, and whatever you're doing is supposed to be directed toward replacing the system of white supremacy with the system of justice. That should be the priority for every person on the planet, because you're not going to have any order anywhere on this planet, not in Iraq, not in Brazil, not on the streets of Chicago, not on those streets of Florida. Down there, you're not going to have any kind of thing going on that makes sense until you replace the system of white supremacy with the system of justice. And every person, white and non-white, should wake up every morning trying to figure out how best to go about doing that. That's what I have written in the book, because I say that you can't solve any problem. See, it's a logical reason for saying that. There's no problem you're going to solve on this planet. All the people who go to church trying to solve problems, the first problem they're going to have to solve is the problem of racism. Martin Luther King was a preacher, and he was getting ready to start his career of just preaching. And that's correct, I guess, if that's what you went to school for. But he said, wait a minute, in being a preacher, I better address the problems that allow me to preach. I mean, people are throwing bombs in churches. How are you going to preach and people are outside throwing bombs in the churches? So I better maybe address something that's going on out here in the streets. Otherwise, the streets will be in here, and I won't even be able to preach the gospel. I won't even be able to have a place to preach if I don't do something about what's going on around me. And I think most preachers will agree, according to what they preach. Most Christian preachers said that's what Jesus did. In fact, his father came looking for him and said, you're supposed to be a carpenter, but you're out here telling people about straightening out the world. And there are some preachers who say the world can't be straightened out. Well, maybe so. That's for them to argue about. But you have to be able to do something just to get to church. When you get in your limousine to go to your church to preach to your congregation, I notice you got a lock on your car. What's that about? I'm saying you have to straighten out your environment. That's the first place to start if you're going to get anything done. Straighten out your environment. You can't get past that.
Okay.
And that's each individual. That's Neely Fuller. I have to straighten it out.
Okay.
When I get ready to go to the grocery store, I have to consider what route I'm going to take. Otherwise, I might get mugged. I've been robbed on the streets of Washington, D.C., supposedly, quote, unquote, the capital of the world. I shouldn't be robbed on the streets of Washington, D.C., ever. I should be able to lay out on a front lawn with $1 million in my pocket and wake up and still have my $1 million in the capital of the world. That's the kind of world we're supposed to have.